Bail refused for 13 soldiers on mutiny charges. Baki says housing problems will continue. And Morobe students from UOG arrive in Leh.
This is National EMTV News with Lorraine Genia.
Good evening and welcome to Wednesday's news. 13 PNG-DF soldiers charged for mutiny will be remanded at the Bomana prison until their case returns to court next week. It comes after an application to extend bail after conviction was refused by presiding judge Justice Panuel Mogish. The 13 were found guilty on 2 of the 4 counts of mutiny on the 1st of June, but were out on bail until this order was handed down at 12 noon today.
The applications were submitted on 4 grounds, which include the welfare of their families, pre-sentencing and other reports, and the lack of imprisonment facilities in the country. Justice Mogi says the welfare of their families was not a good ground to apply for bail because they were away from their families for over 6 months in Moro Southern Islands when they disobeyed orders to return to Port Moresby. The soldiers justified their refusal to return to Port Moresby because they were not paid their incidental allowances. The soldiers were initially charged for mutiny and misconduct in December 2015 after they refused to follow orders from their commander to return to Port Moresby. When the case went for trial last month, the misconduct charges were dropped. The court found them guilty only on 2 of the 4 mutiny charges. Concerns on whether 13 convicts will be remanded in Bomana prison were also raised. The court heard that the 13 convicts were specially trained and cannot be remanded with other common criminals because they can easily transfer their military skills and knowledge to other inmates. This is by far one of the biggest cases in the history of the PNG Defence Force, as it involves over 10 senior soldiers. When the case returns to court next week, lawyers will be making submissions on the sentencing of individual soldiers. Thakla Gunga, National EMTV News.
North Fly member Aboka Kondra filed a stay application today at the Waigani Supreme Court on a national court decision made in May. Last year, the first respondent, a leadership tribunal, found Kondra guilty of 6 allegations of misconduct in office and recommended for the Governor-General to dismiss him from office. Kondra then filed for a judicial review but was unsuccessful. Today he filed this application to stay the National Court's decision that rejected his application for a judicial review.
Ian Molloy, the counsel representing Kondra, told a 3-man Supreme Court bench this morning that the stay application should be granted as it is of public interest. He also said that stay should be granted for the overall interest of justice. However, the lawyer on the opposing side argued that even if it is of public interest, the National Court has found Kondra guilty of misconduct in office. He also raised the concern that the Governor-General, Sir Michael Ogio, has been sitting on the Leadership Tribunal's recommendation to have Kondra dismissed from office. The MP has only been suspended from duties. If the court grants stay, then Kondra has to appeal to the Supreme Court. The court will make its ruling on June 21. Fasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
Police Commissioner Gary Baki says housing woes in the force may still be an issue despite the government's intention to increase manpower to 10,000 by 2018. While he stressed the idea of reforming the force, the Commissioner says there will be no room for gender separation when it comes to housing. When launching a new dormitory at the McGregor Police Barracks in Port Moresby today, he says men and women will have to live together.
While housing in the police force remains an unsolved issue, male officers will have to accept their female colleagues living alongside them. Police Commissioner Gary Baki says the days of separating men and women are gone.
Those days of where we're separating women and men living in different barracks, in my view, is gone. If they are members of the special services and they belong to a squad, they must be treated like their male counterparts. So if this is the barracks she lives in, it is the barracks she will have to live, which means that the male colleagues will have to give credit and actually appreciate the fact that they have a female, officer who's living with them and treat her with dignity and respect.
While he plans to reform the police force, the commissioner says housing will still be an outstanding issue. The government has plans to increase police manpower to 10,000 by 2018. While recruitment of cadets has increased in the last 3 years, the force may not reach the required accommodation needed.
We may not reach the number of accommodation that we would want, particularly to build a strength up to that level. So it would mean that we will have to go into partnership with the provincial governments and members of parliament, particularly in the districts as well too. So that arrangement trickles down to the district. Of course, them supporting us in our efforts in building police accommodations in the districts and in the provincial headquarters areas.
Mr. Baki says this when opening a single quarters dormitory at the McGregor Police Barracks today. The dormitory costs 2.4 million kina and will accommodate over 150 young men and women who join the Special Services Division. The commissioner says there will be strict restrictions for outsiders and family members at the new dormitories. Similar cottages are also built in 3 other locations in the city and in Leh. Quinten Alom, National EMTV News.
15-year-old Bonnie Jacob, a student at Hagara Primary School in the nation's capital, was injured after being hit by a vehicle along a busy road under construction this morning. She sustained cuts and bruises to her body as a result of the accident. Eric Harupma was at the scene minutes after the accident happened.
This morning's accident brings the number to 11 the accidents that have occurred this year at this road outside Agara Primary School near Anubada village in Port Moresby. This is where Bonnie was hit by this truck. The school is situated some meters away from the road, and because of the road construction, only one lane is used, thus causing traffic congestion. Bonnie, a grade 7 student, was crossing the road to school this morning when she was hit by the blue Mazda owned by ACDC contractors.
She was standing when the vehicle hit her. So what we did, both of us, one of the teachers here, we took her up and put her in the vehicle to take her to the safe place.
Bonnie's mother expressed concerns that there should be a temporary crossing, traffic signs and supervising teachers to control traffic.
There are always kids just crossing the road without nobody's notice. So accidents do happen like that. At least a teacher or a security should stand there to mind the children. They are going off the road and crossing the road and all that.
Teachers also say the risk of having accidents is evident in a school environment like this. After considering accidental risk, teachers have submitted a petition to NCDC and contractor ABA Engineering Limited to erect a temporary crossing. However, they have not received a response.
We had 3 meetings and we sent our first petition already. Nothing has been done. This is the 10th week now.
Meanwhile, authorities concerned have responded to meet with the school board to settle this matter. Eric Harupma, National EMTV News.
A medical doctor sustained injuries after being attacked by youths in Daru town in Western Province in the early hours of last Sunday. Dr. Stenard Hilasiri from East Sepik Province sustained minor bruises to his face and body. He is the head of the TB program at the Daru General Hospital. The reasons for him being attacked are not clear, but investigations are underway by police. Sources on Daru Island condemned the attack and told EMTV News it may affect the TB program on the island. The National Health Department is aware of the doctor's attack. Among stories after the break, Morobe students attending University of Goroka return home following yesterday's clashes. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Wednesday's news. Over 200 Morobe students from the University of Goroka have arrived in Leh after fleeing from clashes that put their safety into jeopardy at the campus. They arrived to relieve parents. The Morobe Governor Kelly Naru was also out to welcome them home. Bethany Harriman reports from Leh.
The buses arrived with students from other Momase provinces as well as parts of the New Guinea Islands. The 9 buses stopped and the students met the Morobe Governor Kelly Naru. Before the students got addressed by parents and the Morobe Governor, before the students were addressed by the parents and the Morobe Governor Kelly Naru, a third-year student described what was happening at the University of Goroka.
Safe to mas. Na mibla to sa mibla mas lusim school before anything happen lo Morobe sumatin. So mibla mas kamda na mibla ring tok sawe lo line lo office. All guarantee mibla kisim 6 pla bus. Morobe sumatin na provincial office kisim 6 pla bus lo mibla na school kisim 3 pla bus lo mibla.
It's 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon and the students arrived at 3:30. They're now being addressed by parents and the Morobe Governor Kelly Naru. In this speech to the students, Morobe Governor Kelly Naru summed up what he needed to say. He called for the country to exercise restraint and patience to allow due process of the law to take effect. Students in 3 of Papua New Guinea's major universities have called in petition for the Prime Minister, Peter O'Neill, to step down and answer to corruption allegations.
What we now have to do is we have to refrain ourselves and restrain ourselves from conduct that is going to be unbecoming or conduct that will cause a breach of the peace. Exercise patience, and with that patience and restraint, wait for justice to be delivered. Unfortunately, all of us are not empowered to deliver that justice.
Morobe Governor Kelly Naru says the country now has to rely on the judicial system. From reports at the Goroka Hospital, there are 43 injured students and Goroka residents. The town itself remains quiet. Police presence has been maintained, but businesses are operating normally. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News, Ley.
Ley District Education Manager Laga Kaumu says Ley schools through the district and Provincial Education Division are paying close attention over the unrest in the city. Following last week's school suspensions that had been lifted, teachers and education officials are still concerned over the safety of their students.
Schools in Ley may face another suspension depending on the situation of student unrest at the University of Technology. This includes schools scattered near the Independence Drive that leads past the university. Ley District Education Manager Laga Kaumu says the District Education Authority is on alert to instruct schools to dismiss classes again if the situation in Ley continues.
I've been contacting the schools nearby like Taraka, 10 City, SDA, IGAM. They put an eye on those situations. If the things goes out of hand, they should let us know so that we will try and go for another suspension. But
last Wednesday, more than 20 primary schools in the city were suspended following student fights that broke out at the university. The Provincial Education approved it as part of cautionary measures in light of the student unrest.
Assessing the situation from Thursday, Friday and all weekend, situation was back to normal, so classes resumed yesterday.
This week, students have since returned to class, with schools confirming normal class attendance. Colin Barilai, National EMTV News, Ley.
Women Arise movement will stage an event on Saturday in relation to last Wednesday's shooting. The Women Arise movement hopes to bring together government representatives, the police, UPNG administration and students to reconcile in the Melanesian way. President Sarah Howder Todd said last week's incident has affected the country and reconciliation is needed.
Women Arise movement has strongly condemned the shooting of unarmed university students last Wednesday by police. The Holim Narausim House Cry event will be a demonstration in protest against the shooting and to help restore peace and heal the nation the Melanesian way.
Prosperous country, and it only needs individuals to change and lead the change. And therefore, Women Arise is now taking its stand and wants to make its stand known against what was perpetrated against our students and wanting to work together with all the stakeholders to pave a way forward.
They applauded the Prime Minister for setting up a commission of inquiry, but have asked for the inquiry team to include relevant NGO representatives, such as the United Nations. They also called on the Prime Minister to dissolve Parliament for early elections.
We would like to see that the UN and the TI are represented in the Commission of Inquiry, and we would like the Prime Minister, through his government, to call and reintroduce the gun laws. And we are asking him and his government to allow due process to happen in Parliament, and if that doesn't happen, the Women Arise is calling the Prime Minister and the government to dissolve Parliament immediately and call an early election.
They also called on police in their own investigations to find the perpetrators and lay criminal charges, and also for the university administration to provide counselling to students before they return to class and to remove police on the campus.
With equitable gender composition and criminal charges laid against the police that have shot into the students. If they are found guilty, criminal charges has to be laid immediately. The police must review their weapons, instruments, and public discharge policy. They don't have to be there. The students have now been dispersed. They're living in fear. They need to go back into the campus where they reside. And if they're asking for the classes to resume, would like the police presence to be removed so that students can go in, because the additional presence there is now giving a different perception.
Women Arise movement also had a message for the students.
To tell you, you are not alone in this fight. You have been well and truly heard. You have been well and truly heard. But we would like you to think now, after the event, to think now and think about you. You must acknowledge that your education is your right too.
The Women Arise movement is calling on women, girls, men and boys to join the call for the action. Also calling on the Prime Minister, police, UPNG administration and students to attend the Melanesian way of reconciliation. Adelaide Xerox Kari National, MTV News.
Moves by the founder of Interoil to regain control of the board of Interoil have been unsuccessful following the company's annual general meeting. Shareholders have overwhelmingly supported the re-election of all 8 directors put forward by the current board of the company, rejecting the nominees put forward by the company's founder and former chairman and CEO Phil Mulashek. In an announcement to the markets, the re-elected board thanked shareholders for having confidence in them to serve another term, saying the results of the AGM underscore the recognition by shareholders of the steps the current board and management team have taken to transform Interoil. The re-elected board members include current chairman, CEO and executive director Izzy Kelly Tareka. Corporate bodies within PNG can now save up to 40% in cost for audio conferencing with over 90 countries worldwide. After over a decade of global negotiations and technical hurdles, B-Mobile Vodafone launched a new and convenient audio conferencing service. This offer, Group CEO Sundar Ramamurthy said, allows corporate bodies to participate in international audio conferences on local rates. Up until now, business owners in PNG could only join audio conferences of this nature by dialing an international number.
Local call rate, so rather than ringing an overseas number. So I'll just give you a demonstration. I think our number is 7500 0000.
Reservation list plus conferencing. Enter your conference code followed by the pound or hash sign.
So typically at this point you put your conference code and then the person in America...
Sorry, you may have entered an invalid conference.
So the person in Australia or Malaysia or Singapore, they enter the same conference code so we can all join on the telephone call together. That's how conferencing works.
And now looking at our finance news, the Kina closed unchanged at $0.3160 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.3085 US, 0.4167 Australian dollars, 0.2722 euro and 32.49 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee and cocoa closed lower, while copper closed the day unchanged. Palm oil, crude oil and copper closed the day lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 57 points lower, the ASX closed at 16 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 14 points lower. National EMTV News continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Wednesday's news. Over 200 Morobe students from the University of Goroka have arrived in Lae after fleeing from clashes that put their safety into jeopardy at the campus. They arrived to relieve parents. The Morobe Governor Kelly Naru was also out to welcome them home. Bethany Harriman reports from Lae.
The buses arrived with students from other Momase provinces as well as parts of the New Guinea Islands. The 9 buses stopped and the students met the Morobe Governor Kelly Naru. Before the students were addressed by the parents and the Morobe Governor Kelly Naru, a third-year student described what was happening at the University of Goroka.
Safe to mas. Na mi bla to mi bla mas lusim school before anything happened Morobe sumatin. So mi bla mas come down mi bla ring toksabe line office. All guarantee mi bla kisim 6 bla bus. Morobe sumatin na provincial office kisim 6 bla bus mi bla na school kisim 3 bla bus mi bla.
It's 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon and the students arrived at 3:30. They're now being addressed by parents and the Morobe Governor Kelly Naru. In this speech to the students, Morobe Governor Kelly Naru summed up what he needed to say. He called for the country to exercise restraint and patience to allow due process of the law to take effect. Students in 3 of Papua New Guinea's major universities have called in petition for the Prime Minister, Peter O'Neill, to step down and answer to corruption allegations.
What we now have to do is we have to refrain ourselves and restrain ourselves from conduct that is going to be unbecoming or conduct that will cause a breach of the peace. Exercise patience, and with that patience and restraint, wait for justice to be delivered. Unfortunately, all of us are not empowered to deliver that justice.
Morobe Governor Kelly Naru says the country now has to rely on the judicial system. From reports at the Goroka Hospital, there are 43 injured students and Goroka residents. The town itself remains quiet. Police presence has been maintained, but businesses are operating normally. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News, Lae.
Lae District Education Manager Laga Kaumu says Lae schools through the district and Provincial Education Division are paying close attention over the unrest in the city. Following last week's school suspensions that had been lifted, teachers and education officials are still concerned over the safety of their students.
Schools in Lae may face another suspension depending on the situation of student unrest at the University of Technology. This includes schools scattered near the Independence Drive that leads past the university. Lae District Education Manager Laga Kaumu says the District Education Authority is on alert to instruct schools to dismiss classes again if the situation in Lae continues.
I've been contacting the schools nearby like Taraka, 10 City, SDA, IGAM. They put an eye on those situations. If things goes out of hand, they should let us know so that we will try and go for another suspension. But
last Wednesday, more than 20 primary schools in the city were suspended following student fights that broke out at the university. The Provincial Education approved it as part of cautionary measures in light of the student unrest.
Assessing the situation from Thursday, Friday and all weekend, situation was back to normal, so classes resumed yesterday.
This week, students have since returned to class, with schools confirming normal class attendance. Colin Barilai, National EMTV News, Lae.
Women Arise movement will stage an event on Saturday in relation to last Wednesday's shooting. The Women Arise movement hopes to bring together government representatives, the police, UPNG administration and students to reconcile in the Melanesian way. President Sarah Howder Todd said last week's incident has affected the country and reconciliation is needed.
Women Arise movement has strongly condemned the shooting of unarmed university students last Wednesday by police. The Holim Narausim House Cry event will be a demonstration in protest against the shooting and to help restore peace and heal the nation the Melanesian way.
prosperous country, and it only needs individuals to change and lead the change. And therefore, Women and Rights is now taking its stand and wants to make its stand known against what was perpetrated against our students and wanting to work together with all the stakeholders to pave a way forward.
They applauded the Prime Minister for setting up a commission of inquiry, but have asked for the inquiry team to include relevant NGO representatives, such as the United Nations. They also called on the Prime Minister to dissolve Parliament for early elections.
We would like to see that the UN and the TI are represented in the commission of inquiry, and we would like the Prime Minister, through his government, to call and reintroduce the gun laws. And we are asking him and his government to allow due process to happen in Parliament. And if that doesn't happen, the Women and Rights is calling the Prime Minister and the government to dissolve Parliament immediately and call an early election.
They also called on police in their own investigations to find the perpetrators and lay criminal charges, and also for the university administration to provide counseling to students before they return to class and to remove police on the campus.
With equitable gender composition and criminal charges laid against the police that have shot into the students. If they are found guilty, criminal charges has to be laid immediately. The police must review their weapons, instruments, and public discharge policy. They don't have to be there. The students have now been dispersed. They're living in fear. They need to go back into the campus where they reside. And if they're asking for the classes to resume, would like the police presence to be removed so that students can go in, because the additional presence there is now given a different perception.
Women Rights Movement also had a message for the students.
I tell you, you are not alone in this fight. You have been well and truly heard. You have been well and truly heard. But we would like you to think now, after the event, to think now and think about you. You must acknowledge that your education is your right too.
The Women Rights Movement is calling on women, girls, men and boys to join the call for the action, also calling on the Prime Minister, police, UPNG administration and students to attend the Melanesian Way of Reconciliation. Adelaide Xerox Kari National, MTV News.
Moves by the founder of Interoil to regain control of the board of Interoil have been unsuccessful following the company's annual general meeting. Shareholders have overwhelmingly supported the re-election of all 8 directors put forward by the current board of the company, rejecting the nominees put forward by the company's founder and former chairman and CEO Phil Mulashek. In an announcement to the markets, the re-elected board thanked shareholders for having confidence in them to serve another term, saying the results of the AGM underscore the recognition by shareholders of the steps the current board and management team have taken to transform Interoil. The re-elected board members include current chairman, CEO and executive director Izzy Kelly Tareka. Corporate bodies within PNG can now save up to 40% in cost for audio conferencing with over 90 countries worldwide. After over a decade of global negotiations and technical hurdles, B-Mobile Vodafone launched a new and convenient audio conferencing service. This offer, Group CEO Sundar Ramamurthy said, allows corporate bodies to participate in international audio conferences on local rates. Up until now, business owners in PNG could only join audio conferences of this nature by dialing an international number.
Local call rate. So, rather than ringing an overseas number. So I'll just give you a demonstration. I think our number is 7500 0000.
Reservation is plus conferencing. Enter your conference code followed by the pound or hash sign.
So typically at this point you put your conference code and then that person in America...
Sorry, you may have entered an invalid conference.
So the person in Australia or Malaysia or Singapore, they enter the same conference code so we can all join on the telephone call together. That's how conferencing works.
And now looking at our finance news, the Kina closed unchanged at $0.3160 in the interbank markets. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.3085 US dollars, 0.4167 Australian dollars, 0.2722 euro, and 32.49 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee, and cocoa closed lower, while copper closed the day unchanged. Palm oil, crude oil, and copper closed the day lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 57 points lower, the ASX closed at 16 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 14 points lower. National EMTV News continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. A workshop on students' data information is underway in Port Moresby. The focus is on data management for students taking up studies at the flexible, open and distance education. Provincial and head office registry officers are gathering at Waigani for the week-long workshop facilitated by the Education Department.
The Flexible Open and Distance Education is an open distance college that facilitates student progressive learning from grades 7 to 12. According to the Education Department, Ford lacked capacity to manage students' records sent from all the provincial centers in the country. This workshop will introduce participants to the new system of recording the students' information through online, including study programs, which are done annually on the student record cards and subject record cards.
We are trying to look at this to move from a manual way of doing things into electronic. And, you will know that electronically things work very fast. It will help us in terms of enrollment, assessment, inventory management.
Ford secured funding from the World Bank and the national government to implement capacity building curriculum development and upgrading of the existing student information and management system. This workshop is also funded by the World Bank.
The World Bank sees that there is a big need for expansion of this system within the Department of Education. To educate Papua New Guinea, we need to expand the Ford system. This is a start.
Ford Principal Demos Tongogo said the system is owned by the Education Department. It will keep record and monitor the users' activities. He strongly urged the participants to use the system responsibly. Marilyn Diabkatam, National EMTV News.
The Angao Hospital Blood Bank is calling on members of the public to donate blood on a regular basis. Manager of the blood bank, Mary Hangito, says the current arrangement relies on donations from family members and is ineffective. She made the call during World Blood Donor Day celebrations in Lae yesterday.
Transfusion of blood and blood products helps save millions of lives every day. However, those who provide the services face numerous challenges. An adequate blood supply can only be guaranteed through regular donations by voluntary donors. Keating Aveng was one of the blood donors who voluntarily gave blood yesterday at the transfusion unit. Mary Ungito, the manager for Angao Blood Bank, says PNG is among 40 countries still dependent on family donors. She said that Angao collects more than 400 blood units in a month. Few are discarded for various reasons, while the rest are used to save lives.
According to WHO, the Vision 2020, by then we should do away with family replacement and have 100% voluntary blood donations. And it has to come from those who are willingly from their heart to come out and donate.
During the celebrations yesterday, Angao Blood Bank thanked the donors for voluntarily donating blood to save the lives of the patients. Lay resident and EMTV senior technician Maisen Ungito is a volunteer who has donated blood since 2002. He was also recognized yesterday as the second highest blood donor in Lay City by contributing 34 blood units to Angao Blood Bank.
When donating 34 units of blood, so far I've saved 34 lives already, and I'm happy for that.
Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Lay.
More than 20 provincial police commanders in the Highlands, Momase and New Guinea Islands are in Lae to attend a week-long workshop. The workshop is held in preparation for the 2017 budget. Among the agendas, an updated list on the current number of workforce on the ground in each of the commands. It is an annual meeting aimed at improving the force. A similar workshop was also held in Port Moresby a week ago for the southern region. The police department is one of the 13 government departments working to submit budget plans for next year. Heading overseas now, the Orlando terror attack in the United States is inflaming tensions between the U.S. president and the man who wants to replace him. Barack Obama says Donald Trump's response to the shooting and his proposed Muslim ban are dangerous and un-American.
President Obama this time confronting his critics head-on.
That's the key, they tell us. We can't beat ISIL unless we call them radical Islamists. What exactly would using this label accomplish? What exactly would it change? Calling a threat by a different name does not make it go away. This is a political distraction.
Flanked by his National Security Council, including the nonpartisan chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the president excoriated those who say he has not done enough to fight ISIS.
There's not been a moment in my 7.5 years as president where we have not been able to pursue a strategy because we didn't use the label radical Islam. Not once has an advisor of mine said, man, if we really use that phrase, we're going to turn this whole thing around. Not once.
The usually collected Obama lashed out at Republican rhetoric, and Donald Trump in particular.
And the reason I am careful about how I describe this threat has nothing to do with political correctness and everything to do with actually defeating extremism. And if we fall into the trap of painting all Muslims with a broad brush and imply that we are at war with an entire religion, then we are doing the terrorist work for them.
In what appeared to be a carefully choreographed 1-2 punch, at the same time the president spoke, Hillary Clinton was using much the same language during a speech in Pittsburgh, calling out her Republican presidential rival by his first name.
He is fixated on the words radical Islam. So if Donald suggests I won't call this threat what it is, he hasn't been listening. But I will not demonize and declare war on an entire religion.
You know, on those highly controversial remarks that Donald Trump made, saying that President Obama is either not smart, not tough, or has something else in mind, the White House hasn't really wanted to respond directly, saying only that it's important not to be distracted by things so small. But Hillary Clinton did respond, saying, even in a time of divided politics, this is way beyond anything that should be said by someone running for president of the United States.
Trukai Sports is next. Seguiaro's possible move to Brisbane, and David Mead also looking at other NRL opportunities. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The Brisbane Broncos is a possible destination for James Seguiaro since the Penrith Panthers announced he might not have a place in their team next season. Former halfback Peter Wallace has found success playing in the hooker position when Seguiaro was sidelined with an injury.
The Panthers hooker has been dropped to the reserve grade, and according to management, it has nothing to do with off-field drama he has been involved with, but due to his under-par performance on the field for the team.
The upright is there, picked up by Hoffman, just in front of the showing
After an image of him surfaced with men wanted by police, it may have put his career in jeopardy. After being told he may not have a place with the Panthers next year, he said he was on the verge of calling quits on the NRL. Although there are rumors James Seguiaro has received offers to join England's Super League, it is said he is hopeful to resurrect his NRL career. There are talks, however, that Seguiaro could be making a switch to Brisbane to join the Broncos. However, the club has not released any statements just yet regarding Seguiaro's move. The young hooker still believes he has many more years in the NRL and is now focused on turning the situation around.
He links up with Seguiaro!
Dion Kombeng, National EMTV Sports.
SP Hunters winger Adexwera has been included in this weekend's team to face the winner Manly Seagulls. The utility back returns after being suspended for 2 weeks.
Warren Glenn and Asebos have been placed on report after last weekend's clash, but will still play this weekend.
Depending on the outcome of the judiciary, that's just not being finalized yet. So he gets suspended. I don't think he'll be, but okay, he was involved in a tackle with a dangerous throw. There's options there. We got Ate Binewabo back in after he had a boil on his arm, and also we can place Wortovo out there in the halves too. So.
Maroom has named a 20-man squad for the round 15 match, with a few players nursing minor injuries.
Apart from that, the injuries, today we got 2 front rowers out, so they have 50-50 chance of making this weekend's team. We don't want to rush them back in, so Timothy Loma is still out for another 2 weeks, as I've seen Henry Noki.
Philemon Kimi Sive picked up an injury last weekend and may be out for the next 3 weeks.
Philemon, at this stage, I think he's the only player that probably, I will say, he won't be able to play this weekend. So that allows Adexwera to come back into the starting wing. So, but yeah, Philemon, I can't see him play for another 2-3 weeks.
Winner Manly arrive in Port Moresby on Saturday for the Sunday match at the National Football Stadium. Elijah Levitt, National EMTV Sports.
Trukai Sports continues after the break. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The 11th Black Orchid Sevens tournament is set to be bigger and better this year. With the tournament extending to Arawa this year, President of the Autonomous Region of Bougainville Rugby Union, Peter Chamalili Jr., says it's all about maximum exposure in the region and growing the game. Following the grand launching last week at the Laguna Hotel in the nation's capital, President of AROB RFU Peter Chamalili Jr. is looking forward to the prospect of hosting the biggest sevens rugby tournament in the country in Arawa Town. The founder of Black Orchids Rugby and a former Pukpuk rep himself, Chamalili has continued to use rugby as a tool to instill peace and harmony in many communities throughout the region following devastating times.
We'll still continue to drive the spirit of rugby with or without the support of PNG Rugby, because the cause behind what we're doing is a bit different, really, and our focus is about our people and setting our platform for our next generation using rugby union. Hopefully in time, PNG Rugby could and can see what we're doing, and in the past they have assisted. Hopefully they're seeing that what we're doing is
This year will be a first of many. The obvious extension to Arawa, the inclusion of a women's tournament, and the involvement of countless teams from in and around the country.
This tournament will have 2 tournaments actually at the same time. We'll have a women's tournament and men's both at the same time. A total of about 34 teams, 24 men's and 10 women's team will be taking part in this year's tournament. So this year's tournament, it's the biggest that Black Orchid has ever had in the past 10 years.
Kelly Havara has been the man on the ground driving much of the union's programs and activities to achieve one common goal, expanding the game of rugby.
Historical moment for bringing rugby to Central Bougainville. I mean, we have for the past 10 years have rugby played in Buka, and to have rugby move to Central Bougainville, it's a step forward for rugby development as a whole in Bougainville, and also expanding rugby to the rest of Bougainville, especially to Central Bougainville, and one more to South Bougainville.
Meanwhile, the Capital Rugby Union will be sending teams to compete in this year's Black Orchid tournament in Arawa. Competition manager Paul Joseph says the number of teams and clubs should be confirmed by the end of this week.
Event. So for those clubs, teams outside of the island, I hope you come along to the tournament. We are talking to some of the current Palais and former Palais players to come along and be part of the match officials. I hope to confirm at least 2 of them by this week to come along and officiate at the tournament, especially the women's matches, and also share their stories, their experience of playing rugby and what they have learned, what the game has brought to them, and they share their stories with the girls and the women that are going to play, especially the local girls at this tournament. So hopefully those 2, I know you'll be watching, you make up your mind to confirm your availability to be part of the tournament. Part of my team has the tournament director and the match officials in taking part at the Black Orchid Sevens.
To international rugby news now, Jared Hayne arrived in Fiji to join the 23-member Vodafone Fiji Sevens squad preparing for the looming Rio Olympic Games. Hayne, who gave a brief interview with the Fiji Times, said he was privileged to be part of the squad and was looking forward to the warm weather. The Fijian flyer says he flew over to Fiji to get tucked into a great camp, and whatever happens, happens, but it's going to be a difficult task and one he is looking forward to. Hayne represented Fiji and Australia in rugby league. He recently quit American football team the San Francisco 49ers in a bid to represent Fiji at the Olympics. Back home now, the community at Sogeri has a volleyball competition they hope will identify talent for national events. The Lower Sogeri volleyball competition has a training squad intending to compete at the national championships in September. The squad has been training on a weekly basis and hopes to select a strong team.
The Lower Sogeri volleyball competition has a total of 24 teams, 14 competing in the men's division and 10 teams in the women's. The training squad was selected from the 24 teams. They are now in training before the final team for the men's and the women's teams representing Lower Sogeri will be selected.
National Championship, 2007, first selection squad for me and been go out Lower Sogeri, so take part in the National Championship, PNG Games, all this tournament where seminars are taken.
EMTV Sports was able to catch a glimpse of the game on Monday as they displayed some of their popular spiking skills on court. Training squad manager Akila Launch is confident they will be able to put together a good team from the training squad to take on the championship in September.
We have trainings on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturday mornings. We have a couple of good players who are playing in our association, mostly our senior players, but we try to develop our junior players here to take part in the championships so that our junior players can be recognized by other associations for them to take part in their competition in town.
Meanwhile, the Lower Sogeri volleyball competition is expecting its finals in November after the national championship. Dini Rose Raiko, National EMTV Sports.
Trukai Sports ends on that note. The weather details when we come back.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region, fine for Port Moresby and Daru, evening showers in Kerma and a shower or 2 for Alotau and Popondetta. In the Momase region, a shower or 2 for Ley and Madang, chances of evening showers for Wewak and thundery showers for Vanimore. In the New Guinea Islands, thundery showers for Lorengau, Kokopo, Rabaul and Buka, evening showers in Kavieng and showers for Kimbe. In the Highlands region, a shower or two for Mount Hagen and evening showers for Goroka, Mendi, Wabeg and Kundiawa. Looking at the forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours, a strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of the southern region, including waters of Finschhafen, West New Britain and Manus. Waters of southern PNG, Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island, to Kerma, to Yule Island, to Hood Point, to Samurai Island, with waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, with waters of Finschhafen, through Vitiaz Strait to Long Island, including Siasi Islands, Dampier Strait, with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, and with waters of West New Britain, seas of 2.5 to 3.0 metres. Waters of Samurai Island to Cape Vogel to Finschhafen, seas of 1.5 to 2.5 metres, and waters of Long Island to Madang, to Bogia, to Wewak, to Aitape, to Vanimo, and northern PNG Indonesian border, and with waters of New Island to East New Britain to Bougainville, seas of 0.5 to 1.5 metres. And now the ocean forecast for PNG areas. In the Coral Sea, seas rough with southeast winds at 25 to 34 knots with stronger gusts reaching 48 knots. In the Solomon Seas, seas rather rough with southeast winds at 20 to 25 knots. Seas moderate to rough with southeast winds at 25 to 34 knots for the Bismarck Sea. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with southeast to southwest winds at 10 to 15 knots. Now recapping our main stories for tonight. Bail refused for 13 soldiers on mutiny charges. Baki says housing problems will continue, and Morobe students from UOG arrive in Leh. And that's the news, sports and weather for tonight. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Lorraine Genia. Pleasant viewing. Good night.